name is Bryce Gassmann, and I will be talking about the phrase form follows function. The phrase form follows function is a principle that says the design of something should be based upon its intended function or purpose, and that will make it beautiful. The principle dates back to Carlo Laddoli, who was a Franciscan friar in the 18th century. He said that Baroque architecture was immoral and demanded a new architecture where nothing would show in the structure that didn't have definite function or derive from the strictest necessity. There would be no ornamentation allowed, and the architecture must conform to the nature of the material that was used. In the 1820s, his ideas were brought to the United States by a man named Horatio Greenough, who was a neoclassic sculptor. Instead of just applying the idea to architecture, he expanded it and applied it to all forms of life and man-made things. To him, all beauty derived from function. So he tweaked Laddoli's idea a little bit and said that form follows function in nature. Greenough said that man has the most functions, so it's the most beautiful, but only when nude, because adding clothing would be useless ornamentation. A step down from that would be something like a lion, who's a beast of prey, and farther down from that would be something like a mouse, who is prey. The problem with his idea is that function actually follows form in nature. A giraffe has long necks, so it discovered that it could reach trees to get food. Penguins' wings don't allow them to fly, but it makes them really good swimmers. And a chameleon's skin can change colors, so it discovered that it could fit in with its surroundings. Although there were problems with Greenough's ideas, the idea of form follows function carried into the 19th century. But it went back to being more like the ideas of Laddoli. Form follows function was used a lot in architecture, but ornamentation was now allowed if it had a purpose. The architect Louis Sullivan was the one who actually coined the phrase form follows function in his article, The Tall Office Building Artistically Considered. His design for the Prudential Building in Buffalo, New York was based upon the principle form follows function. The function of the building was to maximize space and let in a lot of light to attract tenants. He also added ornamentation, but for this building it had a purpose. Le Corbusier was another architect who used form follows function in his design of the Villa Savoy. The function of this house was to create an open living space on the inside and provide views of outdoors from all sides of the house. Frank Lloyd Wright also used form follows function in his design of the Falling Water House. The function of this house was to be in harmony with nature. He said that walking indoors would be like you were still outdoors. Frank Lloyd Wright also based his design for the Guggenheim Museum on this principle. The function of the museum was to allow visitors to easily see and enjoy the artwork that was inside, so he created the design of the Guggenheim in a spiral. Another place to see the concept form follows function well is in sculptures. These two sculptures don't look anything alike, but they were both created by Donatello within 5 to 10 years of each other. Their differences derive from their different functions. The statue on the left of David was created to be a civic patriotic monument in Florence, and the one of Mary Magdalene on the right was created to look like all the other statues that had been done of her before. Although the principle worked in the past, changes in technology are a major reason why form follows function is losing its purpose. So many uses are now being put into one small device that when looking at it, you don't have to know its function to use it. Another place that form follows function is losing its purpose is in house designs. More people today are wanting to add more aesthetic value to their house. These houses don't look all that functional, but they do add interest and attract attention. Another current area where form isn't following function is in car designs. These cars are very similar in form. They're both sports cars, but the one on the top is electric powered and the one on bottom is not. They have the same form, but their functions are different. Today, people should be more concerned with the success of their product than rather if its form is following its function. For example, if you wanted to create a clock that allowed people to easily tell the time, you'd want to use a digital clock. But if you wanted one for aesthetic value, you'd use a minimalist analog. People are starting to realize that form doesn't always have to follow function in order to create something beautiful.
Could you put that in slide sorter view for us? Can you go down to the bottom and get it to end the show? Yeah. Okay. Where's the review team?
Christine? I really liked how your presentation, because your talking was very fluent with your slides. You only had a few of them that were a little off, but I'm glad you memorized it. It made it really interesting. Matt?
You had a clean presentation in terms of, again, with like you understanding where your transitions came without staring back at the screen to always look at when the sides were changing. It was good to show that you put in the right practice to make a clean presentation. And also your slides visually, I feel like they were visually organized well. They weren't too cluttered, but they weren't too ugly either. And just the slide, it's in the bottom row, fourth from the left. That one, like all the other sides are kind of on like the same grid level, but that one kind of seemed like off of the same grid level. But outside of that, they were good side.
The one with the little iPods across the top.
Yeah.
Yeah. Other questions and comments?
I think that your choice of pictures really got my attention, so I wasn't really falling asleep.
I really like how you talked through the transitions. Like your next topic was already starting from the finish.
Others?
And I also like how you used art, nature, and things that you use now, like going from all different aspects to create, so build it into one thing really helps us visualize what you're trying to do. Jake.
I like the order you chose throughout your presentation, going from one subject to the other.
I think that the presentation is very well organized, good points and good photos. I agree with Matt, I don't like the layout on that one slide, but it's because the others I think are so well done that it kind of stands out as just being a little bit off. The only problem that I have in terms of, well, also, I mean, obviously it'd be better if you didn't have to use notes at all, but you did know your presentation, there's no question about that. The only thing that I have a problem with really is that some of your conclusions toward the end. It seemed to me that the term function shifted a little bit here. And I think overall, I think it's important to note from slides 13 on to 16 that, yeah, what we're dealing with here is aesthetics. This is just what people like. But when you got to the last one, you suggested, or insisted really, that the digital clock was easier to read. It's not. Actually, it's just a matter of what you're accustomed to. If you grew up at a time where you never, for some reason, saw an analog clock, it would seem easier to you, I guess. But actually, the analog clock is easier to read because you don't have to distinguish numbers. All you have is to just glance at the position that's there. So it's really, even in that last one, it's not a question of something being easier than the other. It's really a question of aesthetics, again, purely aesthetics. And it's interesting because the sense of aesthetics, of course, changes. So you would have kind of a permanent sense of change going on. This is some of you who were in this term's 183 with Michael Martin when you read the Virginia Pastoral book. It's the principle that's there. We've just gone purely to aesthetics. So the concept of form, color, function sort of has passed. But one of the reasons it passed is because thinking they were utilizing it, so many of these ugly buildings like Carver Hall were built, and people just can't take that. Thank you very much.